So today we're going to be learning about a nuisance code change, or potential change, that is. Can you explain to us how this can help fight human trafficking?
Sure. The city has a chronic nuisance law. It's been on the books for a long time. What we're doing is amending it to try to make it a better tool to fight businesses and locations that are enabling or harboring or helping with illegal sex trafficking. How
does that happen?
Well, some of the ways, you've got businesses, adult businesses, you've got hotels and motels, you've got massage parlors, and some of those are fronts for illegal prostitution acts. And so enforcement of those crimes can be difficult, one. Two, we know that victims of trafficking are some of the most vulnerable in our community, and they do not self-identify as victims. So we don't see victims a lot of times calling the police like you would see the victim of a robbery or a car theft. We see a lot of manipulation and control and fear being used to hide these, as I said, most vulnerable victims in our community from being identified by law enforcement. And so being able to either reduce the locations where this can happen or being able to enforce individuals who are making money or profiting from this is one way to go after trying to reduce the amount of victims that are trafficked.
So how does that translate into a nuisance that someone could report?
Well, so there are a whole list of nuisance activities. Some are prostitution related, trafficking related, sex trafficking related. Some are other crime related. But if a location, a business has frequent problems at that area, the chronic nuisance law in the city of Portland is a tool to help work with those business owners to fix those problems.
So what constitutes a nuisance in terms of human trafficking that someone could report?
Yeah, it can be anything from prostitution activity, right? The normal sort of state laws violating of prostitution. It can be loitering to solicit. It can be a high number of individuals looking to engage in prostitution activity. So there's a couple ways you can get there. And by observing those things and observing where maybe these individuals are staying or where they're engaging in prostitution acts, that we can focus on those businesses and try to work with them to clean up and make it not so attractive to illegal activity.
So is there no way under existing law that businesses can say, hey, I think someone's being trafficked, help?
Oh, there are many ways. If the business wants help, there are many ways in which they can receive help, absolutely. This comes from maybe a business not reaching out, right? That observations are from community members or law enforcement or others that see that this activity is going on. There are some businesses, I would say the vast majority of businesses, right? They don't want this in their neighborhoods, in their business, but there are some businesses that make money, profit from illegal acts, including prostitution.
So a person, I guess I'm just trying to understand, if a person, let's say, frequents a business and they suspect there's prostitution, can't they report that anyway without a nuisance code?
So they absolutely can report it, but what happens next is important. Just reporting it doesn't mean that that business, that investigators have enough to, let's say, hold that business accountable for any criminal charges. But a chronic nuisance will allow the city and designees of the city administrator to send letters and to start working with the business saying, hey, you've fallen under this city code in which we are going to be working with you to either clean up your business or there'll be consequences for not cleaning up your business. Here's what we've observed. Here's what other people observed. Here's what the reports we've received have said, and we're going to work with you to try to clean that up. It can be anything from installing cameras and having better security to taking IDs of individuals who come into your business. It can be all sorts of things to sort of abate these nuisances. And some of them are, of course, prostitution related. That's what we're talking about. Others are violence. Other ones are involved in other things that I think makes livability around these businesses difficult.
So how does this help prosecution in a way that doesn't already exist?
Yeah. Human trafficking cases are some of the most difficult cases to prosecute within our office. They're challenging for a myriad of reasons, including some of the obvious ones. Victims are controlled, fearful. They're trained not to work with law enforcement. Many of them do not even identify as victims. So that can be very difficult when you are trying to do a trial where your victim provides evidence of the crime. In addition to that, because these cases are so hard to put together and investigate, we look for non-traditional tools to help us reduce crime and help improve livability in the city. So even though some people will say, well, that's not the traditional model of a prosecutor, this office especially has always been in the business of being strategic and doing non-traditional ways of helping this city and people who live in it feel safer and reduce crime. Sometimes it's crime prevention, sometimes it's education, sometimes it's non-traditional ways of making this city not as attractive to criminal elements. I know in my experience here, I've been working trafficking cases for the last, well, this will be the 18th year, that Portland has been known for a place where you can make a lot of money. There's a lot of demand to sell human beings, and anything we can do to reduce that, both selling children and adults, we're going to do that, whether it's trials and prosecuting individuals, whether it's providing services to victims, or whether it's providing other non-traditional means to make it less attractive to criminal elements and more helpful to the community members who live, let's say, along 82nd Avenue or next to a massage parlor that they're concerned about.
Yeah, the impact statement of the amendment specifically talks about 82nd. Yeah. Can you explain a little bit about, if this passes, how that would benefit what's happening there?
Yeah, well, it will benefit the whole city, but specifically on 82nd, since that's your question, 82nd is a well-known area for street-level prostitution. It has been that way since the early 2000s, if not earlier. And because of that, that is where buyers, or sometimes people refer to them as Johns, go to look to purchase sex, and that is where traffickers bring their victims to sell them. And so what we have is not only an online illegal commercial sex establishment here, we have a street level, what some people call the track, which is 82nd Avenue, where individuals go looking to purchase sex or to sell sex. And so along 82nd Avenue, we are looking to help community members and businesses who have called and reported and asked the city to help clean up their neighborhood. As we talked about a little bit offline before we started, McDaniel School, there are schools and high schools there. There are children who go to lunch in that area. There are people who are going about doing their normal business. And what we are trying to do is listen to those community members and try to make that area safer and cleaner, and to reduce the amount of prostitution and trafficking there.
So if there's prostitution happening at a business, this would be another tool for people on 82nd Street to report a nuisance. And then obviously the requirements would change if this was passed. They'd have a 90-day window as opposed to a 30-day.
Right.
And once they document that nuisance by fulfilling those requirements, what happens next?
Yeah, so the documentation doesn't have to be just by a community member. It can be by a police officer. It can be by a business itself. But what happens next is then, as the police bureau and the city, we evaluate, okay, we've received these nuisance calls. The next step will be to write a letter and contact the owner of this business to see if they will work with us to abate the concerns we have. And some of those abatements we've talked about already. So just like sometimes we need to prosecute, and we do prosecute traffickers and buyers, this is a way to also long-term create less shelters or less places that criminal elements can hide and do their business without being identified and investigated.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Anything else you want to add?
You know, I just appreciate Councilor Novick's office, the City Attorney's office, the Portland Police Bureau, and all the work that's gone into not only working on the older statute and trying to make that work, but also looking at ways that we can improve it to help members of the community. And I appreciate those community members who have called, who have reached out, who I've spoken to in different events, being willing to stand up for their communities and their neighborhoods, and really trying to be thoughtful about how to work with our office and other offices to reduce crime in their areas.